Sorry for being a little absent while I was running around getting stuff, but yeah, so welcome everybody to ETHOnline idea session, idea validation session. This is meant to be, just a really quick intro to what you people are working on, and we've got a bunch of great people. They already gave their intros who are going to be giving you feedback, and the way we're going to do that is by splitting into two separate rooms. Andrew's going to be leading another one, but we're going to start off in the same room just to get the idea of how it's going to go. Projects will have 5 minutes total to present what they're going over. Again, this is just meant to be a high-level intro to what you're working on, not necessarily a technical review or a Solidity audit session. We'll have time for those sessions later in the hackathon. So remember, keep it high level. Make sure to leave time for the panelists to respond. And I'm really excited to see what people are building on. I've already gone through the check-ins for almost all of the projects, and there's some really amazing ideas. So let's get this started, and I'll stop talking. So first up is Jack Sanford. Why don't you give us like a 1-minute overview of what you're working on, and then we can get some feedback.
Hey guys, can you hear me? Cool. Yeah, Jack with the 20pay team here. So what we're building or thinking about building this hackathon is basically Stripe for crypto is the quick way to explain it. So basically you're on an e-commerce payment page and you're a buyer. You want to pay with whatever your favorite currency is, and you're the merchant. You want to accept whatever your favorite currency is. And we basically take you on the back end through probably 1inch or Uniswap and do that transaction for you so that the buyer can pay in his currency. It basically gets converted to the seller's currency in order to accept the payment. And what I'm looking for is, what do you guys think about this? And are there any cool sort of integrations or twists on this, or features that come to mind that you think would be really cool? Thanks, guys.
Trent, I'll go. Cool.
Yeah, just jump in.
Yeah. I think it's definitely something that's needed right now. I don't think that the actual exchange is going to be the hardest part, or like the most important feature to people. I think it being like easy to integrate and easy to use and easy to understand what your records are for the actual transactions, and like the other services that like Stripe provides when you integrate Stripe. Like I think that's the value prop. But yeah, I mean, I think in general they're not being, with the emergence of like XDAI, possibly roll up soon. There's definitely more opportunity to pay with crypto everywhere, but there's not really a tool that does it well.
Plus one there on dev experience. I think that was my exact first thought too. I mean, Stripe should just be doing this first of all, but since they're not, someone else needs to do it. But basically it's all about me as an in developer. Can I just grab can I just npm install this thing, and can it be a wonderful experience and very easy, and like Scott said, maybe this moves between different chains, but all these side chains or L2s are all going to have this same exact interface. You're going to deposit, you'll wait a little bit, and then you can send and receive quickly, and then you withdraw, right? So wherever you've got that bat signal pointed, I would say it's all about making the developer experience really great and making it really easy for a dev to pick it up and use it.
Got it. That's super helpful.
One thing I was just thinking, I know Scott said that maybe the transferring might not be the most important thing, which like, it makes sense. Like the recipient can easily convert to whatever token they want. I'm wondering if there's any like tax or accounting reasons that businesses would prefer to exchange, that they'd rather not like convert it on their own, but they'd rather just get like USDC and not have to worry about like volatile assets. So that could be a kind of a cool feature. And I'm not sure if that like kind of direction affects the interface at all or anything, like in terms of knowing that like people might want to like not even like know about what the user's paying in. They just want to know what they receive in. So, but overall, that's important.
Right. Cool. Thank you.
Any other comments? All right. Cool. Thanks, Jack, for going first. So what's going to happen
Cool.
next
Thanks,
is
guys.
now we're going to break into two rooms. So if you all of a sudden get a pop-up that says Trent is pushing you into this room, don't be alarmed. You're just going to talk with some of the other people, and then we can get through a couple more projects. Let me see where we're at in terms of signups. Yeah, I think we'll still split it. So why don't we have Subarete, or however you pronounce that. Why don't you go next? And then I'm going to start splitting people into rooms again. Don't be alarmed if you suddenly find yourself somewhere else or get a pop-up. All right, cool.
Okay, cool. Yes, hi, Mihal here. The name is Saburet. I just sort of came up with it from the word superette, because basically we do have quite a few ideas in our team, but one of them that we've been working on the most today is about subscriptions paid through micropayments. So kind of using the streaming micropayments thing. Okay, yeah, I'm not the technical lead on this project. I'm just the UX designer. So a lot of my thinking and my crazy ideas are going to be around users and content creators mainly, because this idea would be to get content creators this would be for content creators who kind of want to get into the crypto space for subscribers, and their content, they can't expect like long form subscriptions like yearly or monthly. And so our idea is to like make very like short increments of time based subscriptions with micropayments. So also then just some high level ideas that we've got going on is that we might include an aspect of messaging, like for notifications, so that content creators can keep their followers informed of like when they're doing special drops of their content, say like they're dropping music and it's very special kind of version or something like that, or they're a blogger or a writer or something like that. We also want to probably make use of maybe giving the content creator an ability to upload it onto IPFS and have buckets so that they can, keep access control over their content. Yeah, I mean, there's so many great sponsors tech in this hack. Like I've literally got a list of like 10 different ways we can use sponsor tech, but I just wanted to get some ideas about how you think people would like this like kind of streaming micropayments for subscriptions.
Yeah, I'll just jump in real quick first and shill the Leet standard and Sablier. There's already a couple cool subscription-based standards. That's all I want to jump in. Then Brian, you go.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, Superfluid is one of the hackathon sponsors, and they had a really cool thing that's like Sablier and steroids that kind of launched last week. That would probably be a really good fit to look into. But there's a lot of music artists and a lot of digital artists who are looking for streaming micropayments right now. That might be a really good audience to kind of hit into. Things like Lost Radio and a lot of other, the RSC launched their own token like last week as well. Hitting on that crowd for streaming micropayments might be an interesting opportunity to kind of dive into if you're looking for different use cases.
Especially if we make an interface really great. I mean, because we've got myself, a UX designer, and we've got a front-end developer on our team. So if we made a really cool interface to connect all these different pieces together, I mean, we don't want to reinvent the wheel. We just kind of want to put it nicely together.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think one thing that seems like kind of what you're hitting at, if you can lower the commitment on the initial purchase without actually lowering the churn for like a fan that cancels their subscription, that might be kind of like a unique value prop of the streaming. I think I know there's some streaming subscription fans amongst my other moderators on this call. I haven't quite seen someone package up the value proposition of having streaming payments very well yet. And like, I think if there's like a unique way to solve, like a unique way to like, I guess, who's your customer? And it seems like it's the content creator. And like, how do you solve a problem that they have with the current system? And like, I think like one thing, like, if you look sort of, it's kind of unrelated, but related to like, if you look at bootstrapping a Moloch DAO, one of the key things is you weren't actually making a commitment with your whole money, because you can quit whenever you wanted once you joined. And it seems like streaming payments might have that similar value proposition for like someone that's not really sure they want to pull the trigger on like a whole month or a whole 6 months or a whole year subscription. So I don't know. It might be like a unique
Can I
value
dive in?
market. Yeah.
One extra thing I'm joining the other room, but one thing that comes to mind is what you optimize for in terms of your subscription creator or your subscribers. With for instance, with Nifty Inc., we optimized for the artist's onboarding. We wanted, either one side or the other is going to have to do the blockchain-y stuff, right? And you kind of figure out which one you want to do the blockchain stuff, whether I can set up a subscription without knowing, or I know how to do the blockchain stuff. So I'll deploy the subscriber, and then all my subscribers don't have to know anything about blockchain. So you kind of have to figure out which edge you want to use there. Okay, I'm diving to the other one. See you guys later.
Thanks.
Thanks. Cool. Yeah, keep going if anybody else has any more suggestions. And just a point, I'm adding people manually to the second room if you've signed up there. I don't know if people can jump back and forth on their own, but we'll get through it.
Yeah, we've got, I've got a lot of other, kind of ideas to kind of squeeze into it. But I guess there would be also another way, to squeeze a sort of NFT aspect to this, is that maybe subscribers can pay in NFTs, or they could get NFTs somehow as the content that they buy, or and then if that NFT is on like a bonding curve or something, then they get to get like a piece of it, like. Yeah, so it's quite endless to kind of think about what they're actually buying and how much they're subscribing to it,
Yeah, one interesting idea that I tell people going around with streaming payments is that you can actually have the streaming payment go towards the owner of an NFT. So if you're the creator and you hold the NFT, you can actually sell it to someone else that represents like that stream, sort of in the same capacity. So you're able to kind of sell the future advance of that stream as well, right? But the creator in that capacity can basically get an advance on their streams. They can get it all at one time instead of getting it there, right? It can be an interesting way to represent the liabilities in that stream as well. So if you wanted to throw NFTs in there, that'd be one interesting way to do it. And I think the other way, as you just mentioned, is like permission content using NFT. Might be the other, having an access key or something to present that content, right?
Yeah, definitely. Oh wow, that's really great. Thanks for that. It's really great feedback.
Awesome. Cool. That was right on time, actually.
Cool. Thanks. Thanks, everyone.
Next up, we have Liquidation Helper with Andrew Rudnick. Andrew, hopefully I didn't move you to another room. You here?
Nope, I'm here. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So this idea is kind of like, on top of Aave, where you can put in your ETH as collateral to get out DAI if you want to continue to trade. But instead of having like a defined amount that kind of is a binary of you're either going to be liquidated at this price or not, the depositor could be opted to put in an extra like 5% or 10% or however much that is. And that amount would basically be a buffer zone that would be served or reallocated to like a vault that could serve interest or gain interest. And if the collateral loses value and they're coming close to their liquidation price, the smart contracts would withdraw the interest-bearing collateral and kind of add that to the collateralized amount to protect their their loan. Another way of looking at it could be if there was a way where people could allow people to kind of add on to their collateral to kind of protect them as like a helper, then someone could top off low health meter loans, and they could get some sort of reward for that as well, kind of like helping collateral depositors.
You can generally apply this to many different, kind of, I guess, yield aggregators, right? Like you can think of it as like if collateral ratio like goes below this, pull stake from any of these like money markets, right? So I could imagine like you building just like a generalized trigger framework for like pulling money out of anything and then sticking it back into and turning it into DAI and sticking it back into vaults.
Yeah, I would. This not that it means you shouldn't do it, but it sounds a bit. It sounds like what there's an app called DeFi Saver, that I think has a decent amount of subscriptions to it, and it essentially does kind of what you described. I'm not sure if it's exact overlap with the feature set that you said you wanted, and so I definitely just like check out what they're doing and how yours might be different or how it might improve what they're doing. Also say that one of the biggest pain points in developing like a system like this is that there's a lot of DeFi protocols and there's a lot of new DeFi protocols, but your existing integrated DeFi protocols are also kind of changing as those projects ship new code. And kind of like figuring out how to scale your ability to like safely integrate users while the protocols are dynamic kind of underneath your feet is a pretty big challenge for anyone like doing these sorts of services. But the services are important to users, and I think there is a real problem being solved by building it.
Yeah, so Scott, this would kind of be like DeFi Saver. You deposit, DAI, and it, when it's needed, it's kind of like it's pulled into a vault, right? The idea is like it's not really earning interest while it's sitting there. So it's like imagine, sorry, I forgot who shared that idea, but they were talking about like basically sticking that into say a vault, a Y vault, or any other place that earns interest, and when it's needed, pulls it out. So like the idea potentially is that you could build on top of DeFi Saver, where you imagine you talk to them and figure out how you can like create a trigger where it's like, do you want to put in my own? You want to put in whatever actual like vault or anything, right? You could even be a liquidity pool if you want, perhaps, and just convert it into DAI and put it back in.
Just kind of run it more dangerangeely.
Yeah, yeah, right.
I mean, safely run it closer to the line, but safer
it's
than
like squeezing, really milking out like your yields, right? Like I mean, for really large DeFi Saver, like I mean, for really large vaults, you need a ton of DAI, right, to really save them. So it could actually be pretty useful, like because otherwise, I'm not aware that this feature is available. And there's a project called Gelato Finance that also does this, if this and that, like kind of smart contract triggers. So I could imagine like this plus like DeFi Saver could be very interesting if you put them together.
Yeah. No, I mean that does sound interesting. Because I mean there is like for any given amount of no that is cool because you get like the same safety but more uses your capital. Same safety level, yeah.
All right, that is 5 minutes, unless anybody has a quick comment to close it out, but we're going to move on to the next team if that's all right.
Thank you.
Great. Next up, Alex Conway. The name of the project is Community Engagement, or maybe that's just a general idea, but I'll let him explain.
Yeah, hello world. Can I share my screen?
What's it for?
Just, I think it'll make it easier to explain, but
Sure,
I can explain without that.
As long as you don't have like a huge slide deck, but go ahead, yeah.
Oh, no, just like 3 quick things.
Yep, go ahead.
Can you see a screenshot of a tweet?
Maybe you don't have screen share capabilities. Let me get that to you. Why don't you start talking to begin, and I'll.
All right, sure. So I was randomly researching Nexus Mutual, and came across this meme community on Twitter, the Nexus Mutants. They're kind of like the synthetic Spartans and the Chainlink Marines. They're just this like meme community on Twitter. And there was a post that said, add hashtag Nexus Mutants to your Twitter bio and get the mutant token for our secret Nexus Cast Inner Circle chat. And I thought that was super cool. And below that, he said, you know, once you've done so, DM me with your Ether address. I'll send the tokens all in one go to save gas. And then he was complaining it's quite a manual process. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And I started doing some research and discovered this whole world of social tokens. And actually came across this CoinGecko panel, which is great, with Brian Flynn, who's on this call. Shout out, Brian. And Cooper Turley and Alex Mesmej, who issued his own social token. And I posted on the Twitter thread about it. I was like, because they were saying in the panel, one of the biggest problems with social tokens is distribution, you know, getting these tokens in the hands of the community. Because there's cool things you can do with them, like only allow you inside a Discord if you hold a certain number of these tokens, like Ben's Jam token. You can only read his newsletter on Outpost if you hold 1,000 Jam tokens, which I think is really cool. It's like a great way to align incentives with the community. And so I mean, having seen this Nexus Mutants thing, I posted a tweet on the Twitter thread asking, you know, like, what do you think about giving away social tokens in exchange for engagement on Twitter? Like the first and retweets on a tweet, you know, kind of like social mining in contrast to liquidity mining. And yeah, Alex Mesmej replied like there's potential symbol resistance problems, but it sounds like a good idea. And then the next day he did a sort of social experiment where he tried this. So yeah, it doesn't look like I'm going to share my screen, so I'll post a link to the tweet that he put in the chat. But
yeah, sorry, I think that's turned off for this session, but feel free to share.
Oh, it's all good. It's all good. So yeah, so he trying to find the here we go. So I'll post this in the chat right quick. But yeah, basically he did the social experiment and he said, I'm giving away $5 in Alex tokens to the first 100 people who retweet this tweet and follow me. I'll DM you a link to claim in 24 hours. And then he said, if this works, I'm growing the total number of X token holders by 25%. And then the next tweet, like a few minutes later, was I've started giving out rewards, but got caught by Twitter's algorithm for messaging too many people. And it ended up getting closed in 17 minutes. And you had like 150 retweets. And yeah, it seemed like quite a success. So basically, we're building a way to automate this process. And rather than being like a push mechanism where Alex has to go and manually DM all your people, make it a pull mechanism where he just says like, go to xyz.com/Alex, and you go there, you log in with MetaMask, you verify your Twitter, kind of like Dark Forest. You just tweet like, I'm verifying xyz.com and your ETH address, which also has like a nice viral loop in it. And then we have a bot that like checks if you're one of the first 100 retweeters and then allocates you tokens. So that's sort of what we're building. I'll stop there.
It's funny, Alex and I just chatted briefly this morning about his idea. So I kind of gave him some feedback already on this, but you know, one of the things I told him was that when you're actually earning a token for kind of a lightweight proof of work, that being engagement or retweeting or something, like the community, you know, might not be long-term engaged, so just looking at it as free money. So that was kind of like my biggest criticism, but otherwise, like, you know, everyone's looking for new ways to distribute social tokens, especially to their loyal followers or retroactively. So I think there's some, you know, potential in that capacity. But yeah, curious what Peter and Scott think.
Yeah, makes total sense. I think like you want new. What's really hard about like social tokens are great, right? And I guess well, just like community tokens and token curated chats. The really hard thing is actually figuring out a way to distribute them easily. And yeah, like I would definitely say like, you know, creating a bot or some sort of automation that would be pretty awesome. Just like checking who retweeted first, or even like, you know, I think even if like Zapier or if this and then that, you can check like the bio, you can query, I think like the bio of like Twitter profiles, right? So you could probably do something where like, you know, you check the Twitter profile of like different people, right? Yeah. But generally, like I think this would be easily the next natural extension of the trend.
Yeah, actually, sort of like this type of Sybil resistance was actually the very, very first proof of concept that I ever tried to be a part of building back in 2017. and it didn't go anywhere, obviously. The name of our umbrella org is still named after it. So when we have to actually tell people what our company name is, they're like, what the hell is that? It's like, oh yeah, it's this random proof of concept that went nowhere. But I think this is like a very good idea in a space where you don't want KYC. Bots are it's pretty hard to make fake Twitter accounts that look very convincing. And so you get adversarial fast if your system scales, but I think in general, it's like a fun thing, and the space might be big enough now where it makes sense.
Cool, thanks for the feedback.
Anything else? Any final comments? Did you say how you're going to work on, or how you plan to, how do you close the loop between bots just commenting on things?
Yeah, I mean, we don't have a really good solution to that. I mean, one solution is to take a snapshot of your Twitter followers at a point in time, and then only allow people who were following you before you began this to participate. The other is like, yeah, put a captcha on the place where you claim, and yeah, I mean, needing to verify your Twitter. Both of those things make it harder, but I think fundamentally it's a cat and mouse game with bots. Like, you can never really stop this sort of thing. It's definitely a problem. So let me know if you have any thoughts or ideas on how to tackle that.
You can just like let someone else verify it via Twitter, via like responding with a tweet. Like, human verification of bots, I would actually say roughly is fairly cheap and quick. What's really hard is like just the manual like collection of addresses and like, you know, sending it on chain and so on. Yeah, like.
Yeah, so I think we can automate the collecting the addresses, figuring out who qualifies for the drop, and doing the sending. Yeah, I mean, having people verify each other is interesting. I mean, that's also potentially gameable, but it is really interesting. And yeah, I mean, we could potentially do some kind of like governance token thing and staking and like get fancy. But yeah, we're just trying to get an MVP ship for now.
Cool. Thanks for sharing your idea, Alex. Next up, we have Kuldeep and Machu Picchu project.
Yeah, hi guys. So basically, like our team is here, Sharon and Emma is also here. So basically what we're doing, trying to do is like help farmers of a particular country. So like farmers lose a lot of crops because of climate and all those things, right? And like they have to pay for all those things and suffer the loss also. So what we came up with a system, like it used to happen annually in villages right now also, but like it's kind of like all the farmers of a particular village or in a country, they can deposit something to a particular pot, right? And from that pot, like we will assess the farmers crop vegetation using satellite images, and then we can check like if that particular group of farmers has lost the crops or not, and based upon that we can give them compensation from that particular pot where they contributed actually. So this is basically like the idea that we are trying to solve. And for that, the flow that we have decided is like we will have three kind of members in our system. The first one will the farmers only, the second one will be the watchers, and the third one will be the enablers. So the role of farmers is basically to go to an enabler and get themselves registered. So get it registered means like they can go there, get the addresses for them and make contribution to the pot, because we know that farmers don't have enough resources to use blockchain on their own kind of thing, right? So that's why we want have enablers who can register the farmers and do the contribution process on behalf of them, right? And then we have the watchers all over the world who will do one thing is like they will use the satellite data to watch over the crops of those farmers, right? And they will give their feedback. Let's say thousands of watchers give their feedback for a particular field. 60 of them says like, yeah, the crop has been destroyed, and 40 says no. Whatever the majority, based upon that, the enabler will calculate the compensation for that farmer and reward that farmer with the compensation, so that he don't have to suffer the loss kind of system. So for that, we are typically going to look for several things actually. Like for creating the accounts for farmer, we are using Fortis for the wallet thing, and we actually need one OTP system because farmers don't know anything about blockchain, right? So we need something at farmers end so that they could be aware of the things like how many tokens do they have, is their account there or not, and all of those things, right? and we need one social token for the watchers, so that they can be like social token, I mean to say reputation token, so that we can judge like if this watcher is working doing his work correctly or not, kind of thing. So there's a lot of things I know, but the basic thing is helping the farmers using the satellite data. The watchers will see those data and will just compensate the farmers if there's any loss. Yeah. So I basically have three questions, like how can I develop a OTP system on the blockchain? Second is like how can I use wallets for the farmers? And third one is like how can I generate a reputation token for the watchers, kind of.
So, I got a bit confused because your project seems a little too serious for this forum. So the problem trying to be solved is that like if a farmer wants to buy insurance, they like have to trust. It's like crop insurance, right?
Yeah, we can say that it's kind of an insurance kind of thing, yeah. But like a very minimal pay from the farmers, like kind of. Yeah.
Wait, say that again.
Like farmers will not have to pay a lot, like there will be lakhs and lakhs of farmers there and they will contribute very minimum, but the compensation will be good enough for like if there's a loss. Yeah.
I mean, it sounds pretty interesting. In that like if you have a way to sort of like you're kind of creating like a human driven oracle on like whether the crops were successful or not, right?
Yeah, so for that, what we have is like we have a system already developed. That's an Earth observation system where like using that we can see at a particular field that is actually using thousands of images from satellites to judge like whether a field has lost or not, kind of thing, right? So
Yeah.
that will be manually by watchers, but those watchers will actually stake in our system and then do the assessment part. If they do it wrongly, then their stake will be lost, and if they do it in a better way, they will be rewarded, kind of.
Yeah, are you familiar with a Keynesian beauty contest? Is a game theory construct? Because this could if you need a way to like punish the wrong watchers and reward the correct watchers, it's kind of a way to I put the Wikipedia in the chat.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah, it's sort of like a way to get a bunch of people to like be incentivized to say the correct answer. Without having anyone need to judge the group, which might kind of solve a bit of a problem if you have people guessing wrongly, like how do you adjust reputation? And if you use like the Keynesian beauty contest game, that might make that part of the system simpler.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. And the second question was regarding OTP. So let's say farmers will go to enablers and they will say they will give some 10,000 rupees to the enablers, like make us an address for us and deposit this to the pot, kind of, right? How will farmers know like that those enablers are doing the correct thing or not? So we want to send some OTP and something to the farmer so they have some access. So can I do that using on chain or something, like using Chainlink or something? Is that possible?
You might just the farmers will have like will the farmers have like an Android phone or no?
No. We can say like they will have something where we can send SMS, basically some digits, kind of thing.
I'm not sure if anyone's kind of like created like an SMS way to send and receive.
I know Chainlink gives a way to have some random number, so I can generate random number in our smart contract. But how will I be able to send that to farmers' mobile actually? That's I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. I'm sorry. Yeah,
okay.
I think in general it seems to like it seems to use blockchain in like an interesting way to solve some of like the problems that a more traditional business might have to approach this market. But yeah, if they have an Android phone, you can just use the wallet on the phone.
Yeah,
but yeah,
so
maybe not available.
That was the first case from our side also. Like we can provide the farmers this platform directly. They can use it directly. But we know the reality. Like they don't even use computer systems. So using blockchain is a way different thing. Okay. So one more question I have. Farmers will go to enablers for their account, like creation of accounts and deposition and all those things, right? Now those enablers will have access to the private key of the farmers, kind of, right? So how can I what system can I come up with so that I can stop enablers from you like misusing those private key or something like that?
Wait, why would they need to have access to the private key?
Because farmers cannot use we are going with a thing like farmers cannot use a system directly because they just have a simple mobile and they don't have access to internet or kind of thing, right? This kind of scenario. So in that case,
yeah, no, there's no solution that comes to mind right now. I don't know if anybody else has thoughts on that.
Well, do the enablers have phones? I'm assuming they do, right?
Yeah. Let's say they have a system. Yeah, they have a system.
I mean, the only thing is if the farmers trust the enablers that they have, clients that aren't hacked or whatever, then you can trust that if you type in a password on their phone, it could generate a private key. You create an address, use it for that one time, and then discard it. And if you trust that the phone is discarding it, then that's as good as you're going to get, really.
Okay. Yeah. That's a good idea. Like generating a password every time the farmer is logging, kind of thing. Okay.
Yeah, like just deterministically generate a private key off of something that only the farmer knows, and you just have to hope that the phone that they're typing it into is not saving it.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a tough problem because you're trying to. It's worth solving, but you're trying to do this thing over SMS, where you're just trying to reach people that may not be the typical market for crypto currently. Everybody on Twitter is, a completely different user base. But this is super interesting. One thing I'd love to see is your architecture written out, just so I can understand it a little bit better. Do you have any sort of diagrams or something you can share in Discord?
I can. Okay. I can share on Discord. Like if I
you don't have to do it now, but after the session, that would be good to see, just so I can understand it better.
Actually, another thing you can do if you think about it is you can have like some in the community, some trusted place that they can go to generate their private key and address, and it comes on a paper, and then just like 2 QR codes, and then they keep private key at home, and then they bring, and every time they go out to talk with the enabler or deal with the enabler, they just bring their address QR, and then that way they have it. They don't need a phone, and they can ask the enabler to check the chain for them or whatnot.
Yeah, but if you have another role for the generation part thing, like that's again going to be some human being actually. If you say right,
sure,
they can still have they can cheat farmers.
But at least having that one place maybe where it's safer, and then all the decentralized enablers, you don't have to trust them as much.
Yeah, that's also a good idea. Yeah, okay.
Sorry, can I just
go ahead?
No, I just wanted to remind Kuldeep about Bloom, whether we needed to ask the question on Bloom or whether we'll leave that for now. Bloom and Chainlink.
So what we also thought of is like for enablers, like whosoever is going to be enablers, we can do one thing like we can verify their identity using Bloom. That's one of the sponsors, right? So like we can also get some idea from you guys, how we can use Bloom. Because once we have identity of the enablers, then like we can impose some security at least, kind of.
Yeah, I think the questions that are sponsor specific are probably best if you just go directly to their channel. And yeah, don't forget to share any diagrams you have in Discord. I'd be curious to see that. Unfortunately, we got to move to the next team because I know there are a bunch of other people signed up. But thanks for sharing that idea, Kuldeep, and I look forward to seeing how it gets refined.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Next up is the Carbon Credit Project.
Yes, that will be me. Hello, everybody. My name is Sohail. So we have a team of 4. We are looking into carbon credit projects, and we are aware that this is not the first attempt to solve this problem. There is this another project, CO2 Toucan, I think, and have tried to do that. But here's what we are doing on top of that is that we are trying to create some ERC20 tokens to, first of all, we want to invite people or the organizations or NGOs or even government agencies that issue carbon offsets or carbon credits to either, there are 2 ways of doing that. Either we get their permits from them and we convert them to ERC20 tokens, or we ask them to register on the website to directly mint the ERC20 tokens that are more standard way of creating these carbon credits, and then people could come and buy and sell these carbon credits. So we have another component in that we're thinking about putting an automated market maker to create a market for these tokens so people can buy and sell. And our target is not necessarily consumer level. Our target is mostly industries and the bigger, energy industry and other people that could. This is not something that has been resolved right now, because at the customer level, there's less maybe incentives to do that. But for a bigger companies, energy incentives, they want to do that. There's some of them want to do it in a voluntary basis. Some of them have to do it because of the place they're working at. And that way we could basically track their carbon tokens. And we also want to partner with people that monitor this, how much they are actually using the carbon credit for, and then they can send it back to us so we can burn it and give them an NFT as a record of that, yes, they basically use this carbon credit in this year, and this is the amount they use, so they can keep these NFTs as some sort of a badge to show or to, I don't know, to distribute to other people. And then we can track all of these ERC20 tokens, their cycle, because another problem with the carbon credit is that they kind of get lost. Nobody can know what happens to them. Like a portion of them is just, nobody knows whether it's used or not used. And then there is like secondary market are not very clear. The price of these carbon credits are not very clear. It might change a lot from location to location. So we're trying to put some standard in place. So hopefully we can standardize everything or help to do that. So that's the idea. I would love to get an input on any aspect of it, especially we are a little bit not clear on the AMM part of it. Do we use some sort of a pool in maybe Uniswap or somewhere to pull the liquidity that way in for this, or do we write our own AMM and just create a user interface for that? That would be a great thing if somebody can chime in on that.
I think one of the things that might be useful is for the NFT in itself, like you're gonna need a way to have that attached to an organizational level. It's really hard to have NFTs kind of live who actually owns those keys? Is this the individual user? Is it the organization in some sense? Being able to have that in a multi-sig, like a Gnosis multi-sig or something, to show that has the NFT might be a good solution for that. So you can have multiple people in an organization holding that as an NFT. People usually use verifiable credentials to represent when someone has like proof of doing something in the past. So, I think using 3box is a good solution to kind of like show like your actual identity and showing that you've actually, offset your carbon credits in that capacity. The other thing that comes to mind that maybe Scott doesn't know about, like maybe using gas token as a reference here, also how the gas token market works and how people provide liquidity for the gas token might be an interesting way of thinking how to provide liquidity and using it on the market maker to for people to actually interact with this thing, because a lot of applications in the space are just using gas token to offset a lot of spikes in gas. So
yeah,
they're going to be
on the gas token. Do you mean this? These are are we talking about Ethereum gas token, or are we talking about the actual gas token? Oh, okay. Yes.
How does are the carbon credits? Are they like? How are they created right now? Are they like fungible, or like what is a carbon credit?
There are. This is not unified at all. Different jurisdictions have their own model. So, for example, European Union has its own thing that they issue those kind of carbon credits. Then we have California and United States that issue their own carbon offset credits. These are right now like a physical, and my understanding is that physical documents. They basically.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I was wondering. So I know one of my friends used to trade. I don't know if you're familiar with them, RINs, like the renewable identification numbers.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely a market that's already has been trading in the past, and it's similar to these like documents.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that like maybe an interesting problem. So the clearing of the exchange of these is terrible, right? Because it's like, let me reassign this document to you. In this market, I think it's reassigning like a specific renewable identification number. So at Ethereum, you have the idea of NFTs and then ERC20s, which are just non-fungible, like fungible tokens, right? So if you can find a way to create, basically turn NFTs into fungible tokens, the one thing people have been talked about for a while, and there may be someone doing it soon, there may not be, is there's this Ethereum-based collectible called CryptoPunks, which is like a pixelated picture of a CryptoPunk, not super important. But they're trying to wrap these NFTs into like a vault and then launch an ERC20 fungible token on top of that. So rather than me and you trading one specific CryptoPunk or one specific carbon document or one specific renewable identification number, we can like create fungible version of that and have a different type of settling and clearing mechanism for them. If you can tokenize the carbon credits and then let people like put their tokenized version of the document into the vault, and then I'm just trading ERC20s from that, right? Then you can sort of like create a common clearinghouse, like a simple clearing mechanism.
So you can do, so just as jump, you can do this with NifTex right now. So the whole point of NifTex is like to take NFTs and shard them into many different fractions. Right, you can shard them on Matic. It's a bit cheaper. You can shard them on Ethereum mainnet, which is
no. I'm talking about the other way. You're talking about sharding NFTs.
Right.
I'm talking about like taking groups of NFTs and turning them into fungibles, turning them into ERC20s. So there's like taking rather than make it fungible.
So you want to create a basket of NFTs and then shard them collectively.
Yes. Yeah, like you put a koi into the koi pond and you get one koi pond share.
I would still recommend potentially chatting to the NifTex crew. The mostly working on this as well for their next release.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
It's kind of like Whale as well, right?
So one more question. Do you guys think we need to also store this original, I mean, at least the scanned version of these NFTs or these documents on a chain? Is it any reason for us to do that? Or, I mean, if we don't do that, we are asking people to trust us, right?
I mean, I think even if you upload a picture of the document on chain, they're still gonna have to trust you.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. There's definitely like this on-chain off-ramp, like centralized trustful bridge. It's a tricky one, but
you put it on chain to distribute it, right? And for interesting things such as price discovery, you know, like even for one credit, you know, you could fractionalize it and then like, you know, figure out how to like how the market, you know, values it, right? It's more efficient than of NFTs themselves.
The cool things about like these clearinghouse businesses is they are hard to bootstrap probably, but if you can bootstrap it, like the market will probably like just use yours until you mess it up.
Right.
You could probably create a much more efficient like credit like market by tokenizing all of them into ERC20s and then almost like using stuff like balancer pools, right? To like, if like, you know, to basically shed liquidity pools for all of them. So that you don't have to like create liquidity for every single like carbon credit if they're kind of roughly, if the kind of price this roughly more or less the same, right? To, you know, depending on like if they don't matter, right? If these discretionary details don't matter, then like they can technically share share common liquidity pool, right?
Okay. So you're saying that because there might be different type of carbon credits and we might need to mint different type of ERC20 and we can put out. Okay.
Yeah.
It's one way, or you can turn it in basket, right? And do it like Whale, like a Whale token. Like there's like a token called Whale where, you know, they're like a famous like collector of NFTs and they have like this $1 million worth of NFTs in like one basket. They've like basically gone ahead, put in one account and they've like, you know, created token ownership over it. I'm not entirely sure about, I think Brian, maybe, you know, like about whether like the token is actually entitled complete ownership but initially it was kind of just like, you have tokens, you vote on it, I control it, but I'll do what you say. General idea though, right?
Yeah. I'd also check out AirSwap a little bit because they have like some really easy OTC stuff. And if you were gonna like just DM with someone, you can then send them like the offer to trade. in like text, they would then let them like do like an OTC transaction, if that was how the market was going to flow.
Perfect. Thank you very much, everybody. That was very useful. I have a lot of notes now that I need to work on.
Awesome. I'm going to move Peter over to the next room because David has to drop. Bye, Peter. Everybody wave bye.
Thank God.
Ow.
No, just kidding.
And we're going to keep going in the main room. We've got about 6 more projects. We're making good time here. So next up was athlete tokens. Rob, do you want to start off?
Hey guys. Yeah, so we're trying to gamify athlete performance. So the way that we're trying to do that is with UMA, and we're trying to mint player tokens that essentially track athlete performance. So our plan is to use like a rolling average of like 10 or 15 games during a season, which represents the player's average stats. And then if they perform better than that average, the price of that token will go up, perform worse, and that price of that token would go down. So one of the things that we're struggling with is when to mint the tokens and how to do so. So our plan now is to mint long tokens as well as inverse tokens. So, you know, one would be betting on the price going up, one or the performance going up, the other on the performance going down. And we're kind of struggling with how to build this so that us as the kind of the builder of the marketplace has as close to a 50-50 split and really zero net position overall. So with UMA, we need to mint tokens with some collateral. And we're kind of curious how we can mint these tokens, and then when people are ready to redeem them, they can either sell to someone else if they choose to, or they can sell, I guess, back to the marketplace. So that's one of the things that we're working on, is how to get us enough liquidity on the platform so that there's always a buyer for any seller for any buyer, and people kind of have enough liquidity to exchange these tokens and get out of their positions when they need to.
Yeah. How would the tokens like track the 15-day moving average?
Yeah, so we're going to pull in sports stats from an API like ESPN, or there's a bunch of them, and then channel those through a price feed in UMA. So the price feed would kind of aggregate all of those stats and then spit out almost like a player rating or like a 2K score. You know, common, like in a video game, you know, players get a rating, and then from there that would correlate to a price. So we would map, you know, some player rating to a price, and then we would pull that in through an API, and the price fee would get validated by the UMA Oracle.
Okay, so what if rather than having like a long token and a short token for like Babe Ruth's performance, what if you just like had like, let's say we were just doing like the home run prediction markets token. What if it was like shares of total home runs or like shares of total points scored? That way, rather than minting a long and short token for one particular asset, I would mint like all touchdown passes for all quarterbacks token, right? And so it's like, there's like the Tom Brady one. There are other sports ball quarterback ones. And then you have like the field for whichever ones aren't included in there. And then you don't have to worry about long shorts. You can just kind of have like all the tokens with a cap. And then you don't have to worry about, like, let's say there are just way more touchdown passes in this sports ball season than last sports ball season, right? And then everyone wins, and then you're out money. Right. If they all just can collateralize each other, more like a pari-mutuel type of skill game, that might be more fun.
At Dapper, we built this game called NBA Top Shot, which basically tokenizes actual plays themselves as NFTs. And so if someone were to do better, so like theoretically the price would go up in some capacity. It might be interesting. I think there was also a project called Hash Fleets that was built 2 years ago that basically tokenized players themselves as NFTs and then tried to get more like fantasy game around it. But there's a lot of learnings there that can kind of how players actually have their performance tracked over time and bought and sold. It's a really hard problem, and a few teams have tried this. I think one other interesting method that it's been really successful and just previous is using Augur outcome shares. To represent if like a player is doing well in some capacity. There might be very low liquidity for that type of thing. But it might be like, I just put an example in the chat, kind of exchange, which is about the outcome shares of the presidential election. I think you can probably do something similar with sort of player outcomes and their performance over a period of time. The one issue that I'm worried about with using ERC20s is just the liquidity on each of these tokens and how many people are willing to buy and sell, especially if there's if it's very crypto native. So you're probably going to want to pick and choose which players you have at first until you build some substantial volume around it.
Yeah, and also if you do plan to launch anything like this that's not with play money, there's like a very fine line between what is like sports betting that will get you sent to prison and what is like skill gaming or like the various like exemptions that like daily fantasy sports exist in. And you probably, if you want to launch it with real money, please hire probably what will be expensive lawyers before you do it.
Gotcha. Yeah, because we are going for the fantasy game type of setup where it's a skill game and people can organize a team, and that's kind of like a layer 2 or 3 that we want to build is some sort of leaderboard or head-to-head matchups where we can, coaches can organize their team and they can pit their team against someone else, whether that's for a prize or just to be at the top of the leaderboard. That's kind of what we're going for.
There's a lot of stuff. Just be like kind of before I was into Ethereum, I was really into the daily fantasy world, and back then the laws hadn't been like refined yet, and so you could just call it skill gaming, and like you might just have to pay. A lot of the big companies just had to pay fines later. Now those laws have been refined, and like the gray area is a lot narrower. So just do your research.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. Do you guys have any suggestions as far as like how to organize? Well, I guess a more general question is what's the idea behind NFTs versus ERC20s? Like with respect to this idea, because I had in mind ERC20s just so that people could pull them off of our platform and maybe to increase liquidity, they could take their player token, say Babe Ruth token, and go trade it on Uniswap or some other decentralized exchange. What would be the reasoning behind NFTs rather than ERC20s?
One benefit you get out of NFTs is that it also acts as a collectible as opposed to just like a bet on that player doing well. So you can have a lot of people buying something just for outside the reason of that player doing well in some capacity, right? Maybe it's like really nice art. Maybe it's like a really cool play they did or something, right? I think that's sort of like Dapper's philosophy on it as well. Like you can actually put the NFTs together to make a team, sort of like the ultimate team or something along those lines, right? Where you have sort of the same setup just using NFTs. It's hard to do that with ERC20s, right? I think the NFTs might be the better approach here, especially if you're trying to go for more like the skill-based thing where you can actually assemble a team, and it'd be a lot more playful in some regard. The other example that I'm thinking about, it's very crypto native, is SportX Exchange. They're kind of like a crypto native, like sports betting thing that uses ERC20s. That can be a good thing to look at as well for reference.
Do you mind dropping that link in the chat?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Awesome. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Robert.
Perfect. Okay, we're gonna keep going. The next team up is Mario with your open source LP dashboard. ahead.
Oh, hi. Hi, everyone. I'm Mario from Mexico. Yeah, so I'm building like I'm calling it a liquidity provider dashboard for automated market maker exchanges. So I'm starting with say with Uniswap, and well, first I'd like to hear your feedback on generally on this concept, and if it's worthwhile to have a hosted version. I'm thinking like both versions would probably be useful, or just focus on an open source project that people can run from their own computers. Yeah, so just like any feedback. I haven't seen any other DeFi dashboard like DBank or Zapper that shows the data that would be useful for liquidity providers.
So this would be sort of like a site that would be a place where you'd like kind of make decisions about what are good things to provide liquidity in and what are not as good things, like how to allocate your assets.
Yeah, potentially, but like for the first like minimum viable version, just like figure out the user's positions on different pools, and calculate their return on investment, and probably not just like the today's or the current return on investment, but like just show also the trend, and maybe some other metrics like volatility in that specific pool, and stuff that can be useful with regards to evaluating your positions.
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't have a place where like I do that right now, like that specific question right now. So it's definitely, I think, something the market's not meeting. The things that like I feel like are especially missing would be like you having some idea of like what impermanent loss was suffered versus the trading fees, you know, and like did I have a day-by-day P&L like anchoring from some type of impermanent loss. And then also sort of like some of the interfaces kind of default to very short look back windows, like 24 hours. And like just because something had a really lot of trading in the last 24 hours, that's probably not something you'd want to make a 3-week decision on. So yeah, I think it's definitely like as like an MVP, there's, if you can kind of like find an insightful way to like let people sort that more. Yeah, it's definitely, at least I don't know of a place that exists in the market, but there's also a little bit of a problem. And maybe it does exist and I just don't know about it, because sometimes sort of like a dashboard that shows you one piece of information like this, it's a little hard to like create sort of like an awareness engine that'll make people know about it. So kind of like having something in the platform that like will help the platform grow, maybe from the beginning even, I think might be like, if you can figure out a way to get that, and it might grow. It might be useful, but if people don't have a reason to share it and talk about it, people won't know about it, you know?
Yeah, like some sort of incentive, you mean?
I mean, I wouldn't like, I mean, maybe not financial incentive, but sort of like social incentive or like social status signaling type of incentive.
Yeah.
Like some sort of like kind of growth hack like that.
Yeah.
Examples in the chat actually that I've seen done well was just showcasing like liquidity pools and return on investment and permanent loss. I think to Scott's point, they're not widely used. People don't really talk about them that much, mainly because you know, there's just such a long tail of tokens and so many different pool sources that it's really hard to you know, track which ones are useful and which are not. You know, I think the pools FYI just shows all curve pools for the most part, and it's really hard to see what you should actually be entering. So it's really, you know, not that useful in the majority of cases. But if you want to limit it to like a certain number of pools or a certain type of source, then maybe it could be more useful in some capacity.
Yeah, I know pools. FYI, like I've also seen like a few people post like Excel sheets, pictures of Excel sheets they use to track their positions, and I'm thinking more towards that end of the spectrum, like heavy on the data analytics part. Also, what you were saying about and maybe this can go towards my second question, which is a bit more technical. I don't know if you guys might have some suggestions for this, and it goes to what you were saying about the long tail of pools. So the way I was thinking of implementing this was, let's I'm focusing on Uniswap to start, right? And the graph has a really nifty subgraph for Uniswap where you can get like the open LP positions, right? The problem with getting this is that a lot of people have their LP tokens in random farms, right? So that endpoint doesn't show this. But I was thinking that another path towards getting there would be, there's like an LP position snapshots endpoint, and then you can see like at any point you had any LP token, like the address was holding any LP token. And then I'm thinking calling like the Etherscan API and filtering all the transactions that involve that LP token for the address in question, and then get towards what address that transaction was made, figure out if that address is a contract that I can check the balance and total supply for, and then check if that address has an LP position on the original pool that the LP token belonged to. And then with those data points, I think I can construct the LP positions, even if the tokens are in some farm. I don't know if there's like a more direct way around this, and I'm just complicating stuff.
There's a ton of emergent complexity, and it's a really hard problem. And it gets worse every week. But yeah. That's the short answer. Maybe just building something that solves that problem would be an amazing thing that people would pay a ton of money for. But yeah.
Just figure out where the actual positions are, even if they're in random farms, you mean? Just solving that issue.
Yeah, like all of DeFi is like turning into like Russian dolls, kind of.
Yeah.
In a sense. But yeah, no, it's a hard problem, and I struggle with it in our businesses too. But yeah.
I see. Well, I'll let you know how it goes.
Okay. Okay, thanks. Good luck.
we're looking forward to that.
Okay, I'll learn
Good
some stuff at least. I appreciate the feedback. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Mario.
Bye.
All right. The last project we have for room 1 is Oracle Sandboxing.
Hey, everyone. Can you hear me all right? I have to put a mask on because I'm in a co-working spot.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So yeah, we're working on a sort of Oracle sandboxing testing application. So the purpose of this is to assist dApp developers that require integrating especially off-chain data and feeding into their dApp. To run the application. It's inspired because, you know, in my business, we're working with electrical grids, and we're looking to, you know, take into account smart meter data, and we think that, you know, this is something that a lot of dApps are going to be using to build out into the real world. So we thought a toolkit that can be sort of a go-to for dApp developers would really help. You know, one of the main goals is to build a standardization process as like the engine of this. So there can be like a grading system that kind of abstracts away a lot of the specific thought and context into it, and something that a dApp developer can simply play with and see the results based on the ratings engine in the middle of this. So we're looking to basically take into account in the rating system data source coming from, or where it comes from, what it is, different Oracle tech available, and plugging that in, different functions that be on your smart contracts, and the amalgamation of your smart contracts to create your dApp, and how that all comes together in a, you know, certain risk profile, and then deliver that to the dApp developer so they don't have to think about all that. We're looking to actually make it into like an actual interface where you can move around components So you have your smart contract, and you have, you know, the entries for the functions, and it also shows the other functions. You can draw lines that have different thicknesses or colors to show you, you know, actual visualizations of risk profiles. And then, you know, potentially, we don't think this should be built out in the final version just on a hackathon, but you can maybe multiply it out the scenarios so that, you know, you have 100 different scenarios built out, and the DApp developer can identify the most secure one. Understand that this is, you know, extremely challenging thing. We just want to give it, you know, that attempt to begin a standardization process for it. And then the idea would be, you know, that could be potentially a place where people could, not people, different projects in the space could start having some more coordination and bringing their expertise and experience and case studies from their projects in, so that, you know, the community has like a more standard process to this. Yeah, that's what we have right now to present.
It feels like the value prop is sort of like abstracting the complexity of making this decision.
Yeah, so it's abstracting it, so it's a bit easier on the eyes for the DApp developer, not like literally like that, but
why not like, it's not like risk profiles and interface. Why not just abstract it to like one number? Because like if I look at a bunch of complex information, I just like want the answer. How would I know how to like interpret one risk profile versus another? Like I might trust you as like the expert to just do it and give me the answer. And then I just need to buy the number from you. I don't need to buy the interface from you. Maybe, but the other thing, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say it's sort of a spectrum. So we're looking to, which is kind of what you're saying, but like a spectrum of risk, but multi-dimensional. So, because it's going to be trade-offs in the end, you know, so it's like, well, we know that you're actually trying to do this as well, and you kind of need this to build that, to provide the results. So this is the extra risk you're taking by doing that.
Yeah. How would a DApp developer know how to weigh those risks better than you?
How would the DApp developer know better than we do? So it would be about delivering information to them that they don't have, you know, before they use the tool. And it's just more information that they have available. So it's not, I wouldn't necessarily, but I'm totally open to this feedback. I wouldn't necessarily imagine this being, you know, this is the answer, do this. It's more of consider these things.
Yeah, I guess it might depend like who your target user is. Like if it's someone that like is running like a huge project, they're probably going to have the bandwidth to like really dig in on these decisions. If it's someone that's just starting out and like is trying to ship a quick MVP, they might just want the answer. I don't know. The other thing I might consider is whether it's not like you're aggregating oracles from different frameworks.
So you could sandbox using different Oracle technology, and then different sources of feed of data.
And it also seemed like your goal was to kind of like become the standard for this.
Or at least begin the process so that, you know, entities within the DApp space, because I think, you know, especially the Oracle companies would like to see success by not having crashes. So somewhere to start coordination.
Yeah, I guess I think it might be hard to become a standard if you start off by aggregating everyone, because probably no one individually wants to be aggregated into you. So it might be easier to try to become the standard of one Oracle technology and sort of have like a more symbiotic relationship. And then later, if it does achieve scale, you know, then start supporting multiples. But it might be a hard thing to bootstrap kind of becoming like the default choice if you start off kind of putting people in a mode where they'd rather not be, you know?
Okay, so
if that makes sense.
Yeah, to figure out if I have the idea. So you're basically saying that like some of the Oracle companies may not necessarily want to be contributing to like a general pool because there's other Oracle companies, technologies in there, and it may give them an advantage.
Yeah, like they might view this as sort of like commoditizing them when they want to be the standard. So if you pick one Oracle to sort of like to not commoditize, they might make you the default answer for them. Does that make sense? Or do you have, I guess I don't know exactly. I guess different Oracle technologies, like you have different like within Chainlink, the individual nodes like have their own reputations kind of, or maybe, I don't know if it works, but sometimes standards are hard to bootstrap if the people you're creating the standard for are not like fully, like are not aligned enough with you. But
Okay. I didn't consider that. That's a really good point. So yeah, that could be it, where we can't really bring all of them in because, yeah, the commoditization problem. So a question I guess would be, are there different Oracle technologies that perhaps just serve totally different purposes and don't compete that could coordinate?
I don't know. I don't know. They all seem like they compete with each other, but yeah, I'm not like domain expert at all in this. I just, yeah, if you're trying to aggregate everyone, you better solve a really big problem, or they aren't going to like it enough. You know?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which
now,
maybe
the
you are.
alternative
Maybe you are too, though. You know.
Well, I guess the other approach potentially to consider would be maybe not necessarily getting the Oracle technology companies or projects to coordinate, but rather actually just dApp companies that are just looking to build the space out generally. So, major projects want generally better Oracle systems and security.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, yeah, it's definitely like if the pain point is big enough, the people are like, I need this information, like, and I'll pay you for it, right? Then like they're your customer, right? But if the pain point is on like the Oracle provider side, and they need someone to like create a reputation for them, right? Then your customer is like the Oracle provider, maybe. I'm like very far outside of things I know that much about, but like definitely think about like who you're solving a problem for, and then you have to make sure it works for them, and kind of no one else matters really.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was not like a whole question that we went through already, but we already kind of thought about that. So it's not really focused on, the large dApps that are out there running already. It's more, my sort of company that wants to build a real world use case for, electric microgrids. And we don't want to build like large expertise domain experience in Oracle security. It'd be nice if there was just a dApp or an app we could download and sort of make it catch up quickly.
Yeah.
That's that way.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds interesting. It is seems like it's kind of hard right now to like set up a new Oracle for yourself.
Yeah. We don't know like what our boundaries are. We don't know really what to look out for. I mean, we can read a little bit about it. Synthetics had a really, clear case of this, where they got hacked and someone was messing with the price feeds. So that was like part of the inspiration. I mean, it's just a fear of, we plug in smart meter data feeding into our smart contracts. We believe that's going to be our weakest point at this point in the whole dApp security system. So to the extent that like we may have to put in different levers inside our smart contracts and our dApp to maybe even stop it, which takes away from the value of building on.
Yeah, there's a website I put in the chat called Oracle's Club. It was created by like an analyst from Dragonfly named Tom Schmidt. If you look past the unfortunate font choices, it's sort of solving. I've joked with him about this previously too, so I don't feel bad. It's kind of doing a type of this thing. I think he just made it sort of like a nice info site, like in a weekend. But yeah, definitely there might be something to solve with like the purchasing process.
This
like
is a great lead.
Yeah,
this website is.
Yeah, I also know he probably wants to like chat about stuff like this generally. So
No, Scott,
Nice.
you're doing great. I don't know anything about Oracle, so this is,
I'm just making it up as I go. No.
No, I mean that website was, yeah, that's it. Like that's going to be really helpful for this. He's got pros and cons here, and who uses it. This is nice.
Yeah, and he probably I don't know exactly, but he probably want to just chat about different ideas for this. Yeah.
I'd be happy to connect you if you think it'd be useful, Vincenzo.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
And also maybe
Or some-
DM Vance from Framework. I think he's generally interested in ideas from this, but
Okay.
yeah.
This is awesome.
Look at that. We are wrapping up 2 minutes ahead of schedule. Does anybody have any last minute comments or thoughts from a team that popped in their head after the team was finished? Scott, Brian, anything? Nothing. Cool. It's been really cool to see this hackathon, especially. We've had an interesting mix, especially social tokens and personal tokens. We're seeing a ton of projects that are attacking that, and you've seen a couple of them present here. So I'm really, really curious to see how it will play out. There's also some NFT art stuff, a lot of DeFi, obviously. Yeah, it's a really wide range, whereas Hack Money was like all DeFi stuff, basically. So it'll be interesting to see where these projects take this stuff. And then you've got stuff like this Oracle project we just heard about. So really wide range of topics that people are building. The other room, I think they're still going. So I can't close this out quite yet. But thank you,
Can I ask you
Brian and
something?
Scott. Go ahead. What's up?
So ours is like an app. It's not a DApp. It's not going to have stuff on a blockchain. For this hackathon, is that all right? I mean, is that like can people be building stuff like this without actually building something on the blockchain?
Yeah, totally fine.
Okay, thank you.
Cool. This, like I said, has been great, and we can probably just wrap up here if you're going to drop, and Andrew and I will hang out. If you want to go and listen into the other room, feel free to, or I can put you in there myself. Anything that was unresolved for this, jump into Discord and tag me, and I can try to connect you with whoever brought it up or get you a resource there. Cool.
Later, Trent. Thanks.
See you guys. Yeah, Vincenzo, I will move you to the other room. Does anybody else still here want to chat or anything? Other people wanting to go to the other room. Okay. All right, yeah, we'll just hang out here for a bit. If anybody wants to ask a question or get my feedback on something, just.
Hi Trent.
Hello, what's up?
Hey, so I'll just pitch, but so I'm coming from a game dev side and I don't have much experience with the on-chain development. So maybe I was not sure if it's relevant enough, but I'm trying to do a very degen game. It's more like users submit a transaction and they get an ability from that transaction, and then whoever wins that stage takes all the funds. So currently how I'm managing it is through just a normal wallet address. And maybe there's a better way to make it more trustless using oracles and stuff. So maybe just a general opinion on that.
So you mean that you yourself are managing some part of this and you'd like to swap in an oracle?
Yes, so I don't know how oracles and stuff work, but currently, like, users send funds to an address, to a normal wallet address. And then that wallet address, it reads, okay, so this user sent funds. I'll enable the ability in my game engine for this users. And then whoever wins, they just take the funds at the end.
Okay. What sort of information would you need an oracle to actually resolve?
So the logic is happening in the game engine, the winner logic.
Okay.
So that winner logic somehow gets to get thrown in a contract, or if it's a contract.
Is it, okay, so the game is happening off chain?
Yes, game logic is happening off chain.
Okay.
So it's a RPG. It's more like a deathmatch shooting game.
Interesting. One thing you could look at to avoid all this is putting the entire game on chain. I've seen some games like, I think it's called Plasma Dog, which is just like a 2D side scroller. And they put the entire game on a layer 2, and then they don't have to worry about an oracle, because I don't think you'll find an oracle provider that will provide such niche data as this. They're more providing like really generic sets like price feeds or some really large events like sports or something. So yeah, I would actually, here's our gaming man right here, Mr. Austin Griffith. Austin, do you have a minute or so?
What? Sure. Yeah.
Hey, welcome back to room 1. Hopefully it went well. We've got a hacker here asking about Oracle's reporting game logic, and I suggested he could maybe just put the entire game on a layer 2. And then, because oracles really aren't going to provide such niche like reporting from a single game, right?
Yeah, it's interesting if it's like a subjective accomplishment, right? Like if you try to do some kind of like Pokemon Go kind of thing, maybe it's not using GPS, it's actually using an Oracle system. You may have to come up with just some clever logic of how to do that. But yeah, I think I'd have to get a little bit more information about the structure of the game before I could comment on like Oracle mechanics.
Well,
I
I really wanted to be it more like a GTA type game, a big game, very 3D, very, so most of the blockchain games I've come across, it's very 2D and simple. They have simple logics, and I don't know, in sense of something like an open world, a big open world like GTA, how it can survive on blockchain.
Got it. Yeah, that's a very ambitious project.
Yeah.
There's a reason why blockchain games are simple. Like for the first year, when I first was getting into this space, basically blockchain games were enter through the gift shop, where basically you would come in and buy things, and there wasn't hardly a game mechanic to it. So we're lucky to finally have games that are actually games, but doing things like movement is really hard on chain. If you imagine like, is this person inside the house or outside the house? You have to know a lot about their vectors and the math, and you usually don't put that on chain. You usually have something separate, some kind of system that is maybe like your Oracle, whether or not, but almost to build a good blockchain game, you want to think about kind of where Ethereum is very valuable and where it's not. And I think storing someone's 3-dimensional position within a game is probably not a good use of blockchain. You maybe are testing some new, geolocation thing, and that's like going to provide supply chain stuff down the road, and you're playing around with it in a game, maybe that's cool. But putting the actual location of a player within the game on chain doesn't make a ton of sense. With Gallias, a two-dimensional game I made, I set it up so the ships have a speed, and then you can basically make one transaction to put your sails up, and then they start sailing. And with each new block that's mined, the ship moves, and you can tell how far they are by just knowing how many blocks have been mined and how fast they move. So you can do movement on chain. Everything, even the clouds, are on chain, but probably not a good use of that. Like, that's more of just like doing it because I can, not because you necessarily want to do that. So I think that like you probably want to ask yourself, like, why blockchain, and come up with not a giant, huge, aspiring game that's going to be like AAA quality. Come up with some little mechanic, like the way Bard, fast forwards and rewinds, and see if you can figure out how to put something like that into blockchain, tokenized somehow, or on a bonding curve. Something that Ethereum is specifically great at, not trying to fit something great into Ethereum.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Well said, Austin. Yeah, he's got the experience of building games before. I'll link you to what he had made previously.
Gallias.io.
Gallias.io, yeah. Oh, I linked somebody to Daug.
Oh, the Daug. It's coming back in a list, man. I'm going to put it on a list somewhere to see if I can get people to signal toward it. Not really. I'm putting it in my list.
The game is amazing. People should be playing it again. So I'm wondering when we're gonna see a resurrection.
The Daug.
Yeah.
Pet Cemetery. Bring the Daug
I
back.
want to be sensitive to everybody's times. I know Andrew has some stuff to do, and so does Austin. So we're gonna wrap here. But huge thanks to Austin for sticking around an extra 10 minutes and answering some questions, and then also all the teams that you hit in the other room. So this has been a really productive session. A lot of great stuff coming out of it. So we're going to wrap here. Remember to double check your Discord handle if you haven't. Some people are having issues getting to the proper channel, so make sure you have the right Discord handle connected to your hacker dashboard. And if you're around tomorrow during the afternoon Eastern, we're having the Scaling and Infrastructure Summit. So it's going to be a lot of full day of streams and chats and good stuff. So stop by and say hi. Thanks you again,
Global guys, Andrew and Trent and Emily. She's not here, but thank you,
She's
Emily.
gone.
See you guys.
Right.
Thank you.
See you, everybody.